Welcome back to the 2025 California Open. We are in round 18. Ignore the thing that just changed on screen. We're bringing you a matchup from Table 2. Noah Walton, who is currently in fourth place at 11-6, and essentially the last person who can catch our leader, Joe Edley, is up against Jem Burch, who we've seen on stream earlier this tournament, and who is 2 games back at 12-6. So looking forward to a exciting matchup here. Jesse, tell us what you know about these players.
Yeah, this is just going to be an exciting, high-octane matchup. These are some of the strongest players that like the strongest young players in the game today. Noah's been at it at this point he probably has a dozen years of experience. But he is just famous for horsepower, lightning fast computation. This is going to be a breakneck game. We're going to do what we can to keep up. Jem, in turn, has played some really nice games on the stream this tournament. He's also really fast. He confided to me that he plays faster when he's nervous, and that was part of why he played as fast as he did the other day. I think he played his entire game in somewhere between 10 to 15 minutes, but he's always a fast player. So yeah, this is just going to be a real barn burner until the end game, where if it gets close, you know that they're going to apply their maximal calculation powers to try to eke out a victory.
Okay, so 2 plays already on the board. Players dumping their A's and I's that duplicated themselves on their ranks. Noah here with a rank that looks like it ought to be close to a bingo, but nothing appears to be there. So it becomes a question of...
Well, he could simply play something like Dine to the right of Ilya, which scores decently, but it leaves a really poor lead. It would be 27 points. And this early game is really all about steering your rack to the first bingo as quickly as you can. And he is opting for Dine. ESU is not good, but it is not unsalvageable. So it makes sense to me. Scores a pretty good amount here. And in turn, Jem lays down his next play. It wasn't possible until the D came down. Now he has Daker, D-A-I-K-E-R, 46 points. That took approximately 20 seconds to end, but Noah himself is going to reply with sauteed. So for once, the commentator jink doesn't apply, and we're just getting fast and furious action here.
Yeah, no, it might take a quick second here to see if there's anything available through the tiles that Jem just opened up. There is audio through the eye, but that's not going to score nearly as well as sauteed in any of the 3 places it plays, either hooking Hayes, hooking Ahi, or as he is playing hooking Ride and Lid, which is the highest scoring option for 75.
Right, he probably thought briefly about hooking Ahis and sauteed and what that would do differently to the board. Sauteed in this placement does get back some straightforward points from the S or through the A. That was probably his point of apprehension there. But he is ultimately elected to go with the points, and it has given Jem a spot for the Q, so that Jem, again, not wasting any time, he slaps down coin very quickly, leaving Emo and Jem a little bit relieved to see the U in space there. You could have also played QI at the bottom of the board. QI and QI. QI is the most useful word in the Scrabble dictionary. I can remember a time when it was added for the first time. It's really a game changer. And it's actually pronounced chi. It is Chinese for air or your life force, like Tai Chi. And it is valid in our dictionary. But there was no need for QI this time because the U appeared in space. And Gem ending up with the first blank on his rack. So this is going to be interesting. But Noah, in turn, has an X and should be able to score substantially. For our international viewers, untax is not valid in this lexicon. But I think he should be able to wrangle a pretty good score with the X here.
Decent scores appear to be available. Something like X alongside Diker would be 36. XU above coin would be 31. There's also the option to hold on to the X and try to get something better with it. Something like Unary through the N of coin would be 32, keeping OTX. You can also take out the S at the top with something like sorry or story. So,
but keeping UX, which is not a wonderful combination. I think XU here makes a lot of sense. I don't know if it's what he'll do. Noah strategically on the continuum from defense-minded to offense-minded, I think, is pretty aggressive in my experience.
Mm-hmm.
XU is kind of a defensive waiting move. It doesn't really make the most out of your X, but it does block plays from the S. Yeah, Unary coming down. That doesn't surprise me. It leads to a little bit more of an open board. Might be the kind of board that Noah prefers to play on. The X has some solid prospects. If you can draw an A, you can play Axe to the left of Dacre. So this makes a lot of sense. I think I probably would have opted for XU personally, but yeah, it hasn't gone too bad for him either. You can a bingo is insight, let's say.
Overdue Gem, who is now trailing 146 to 94. We apologize for not having the clocks up, but as we said, these are two very quick players. We highly doubt we're going to need them. If it becomes relevant, we will try and get that information for you. Meow coming down pretty quickly for 21, which clears out some of the dreck, keeps the board a bit more open. Looks reasonable to me.
That's a play where I probably would have taken more time. I'm not saying that Meow is wrong. It makes a lot of sense to open up a bit, holding the blank. Those are you want to get balance. I just wonder if it might have been worth looking a little bit longer to see if there was something like maybe Emu and YE or something like that. I can't really say that that's any better. And Noah responds immediately with Axon. And Axon's a lot of points. He's going to be quite happy with that. He's EGT, which is manageable. And Gem has run into definitely not what he was hoping for, drawing a remarkable BGGZ combination to his EF blank. And that's a major setback. But he should have the patience to be able to negotiate it and find a way out of it, and maybe even to score along the way. What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, I would want an eye open for Fizz Gig or something along those lines, but that doesn't appear to be an option.
Can you play something like Fuse here, F-U-Z-E? Feels BGG blank is a remarkable combo. Don't see that one every day.
Yeah, it still feels multiple turns away from a bingo, but I don't see a reasonable way to get within bingo range in one turn other than exchanging, which does not appear to be, which is not something I would, and I'm trigger happy with exchanges, but I would not want to do that in this situation. I might end up doing it, but I wouldn't want to.
Well, he could just get too much compensation from continuing to play through his rack, because the blank, as we've mentioned several times, if you've been watching us, is the great equalizer. He does exchange and keeps easy blank. Cool. Just as I was saying that he could play through. I think this is going to be pretty interesting. Easy blank, very polarizing. There's not a huge Z spot on the board, but you basically either end up playing the Z for 20 or 30 points, or you draw an 80-point Z bingo.
Mm-hmm.
So he has embraced the volatility. I love this as a commentator. He decided he didn't want to slog through a few racks of having BGG blank, and it makes a lot of sense.
And if he had known that Noah was going to bingo again with Gates and put him in a 160-point hole, he might be a little bit more inclined to do exactly what he said. And you mentioned this is a polarizing play. He's looking for an I or an L for polarize. Unfortunately, it's not there. But he can score a boatload of points here. 58 is available for Prez for making up in the bottom right corner, throwing the Z wide open, caution to the wind, playing like he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah, given Noah's actual rack, this is an incredible time for Prez. It takes a lot of courage, but Noah has drawn the other blank. He's going to have to play something like devices. And the Z might actually stay open for a colossal triple, which would be a pretty amazing outcome. And he decides he's down 150 points after Gates. He decides he needs the volatility. Noah can block this to some extent by, depending on how he positions his bingo. He is absolutely going to bingo. He's going to play something like receives, deceives. He could also play devices and ahis, but that opens up the board quite a bit. I suspect he's not going to do that.
There is one play available for Noah that would accomplish everything he wants to do, and it's a bit of a word knowledge check. If he can find evictees through the E of Prez, that completely neuters the Z, scores the most he can get, which is 86, and firmly puts him in command of this game. If he doesn't find it and ends up playing a bingo on 11B, then we're going to have a lot more action on our hands.
Well, Noah is an absolute monster at these blank bingo racks. I think that's what I've seen him use sites like Aerolift before, and he's just a terror. If I were going to bet on anyone finding evictees, it would be Noah, because you can see him taking the time, being methodical. If you're a Gem, you're almost starting to get a little nervous. Why is Noah taking all this time after they've been playing at such a breakneck pace? Gem should get a bingo down no matter what. He's going to have Boniato, which is a kind of fish, and it's going to make By, BYE, and Uppo, UPO. It's going to slot in there nicely. He's got it lined up there, you see.
Mm-hmm. I
don't think he actually has anything through the Z itself, which is really what he would have wanted. He's not that far from Branzino. Which is delicious, but might only be in the international lexicon. Yeah, that's right. Only international only. Is Boronia lined up as well with an R? So Jim is going to get his bingo down, but it's on the back of a flurry of big plays by Noah. And it's he's going to need to bingo several more times to keep this game competitive.
So, again, taking the time, I think he recognizes that this is a crucial moment in the game and that he does need to be thorough in his search for bingos and try to find the play that does everything he wants to do, which would be evictees. So
I feel that if he had seen evictees, he would have played it already. Because I think, as you mentioned, it feels like that accomplishes everything he wants. But I stand by my belief that he's very likely to find evictees here, which is a start play.
While we have a few seconds to catch our breath here, we can talk a little bit more about these players' respective journeys here. Noah, I've known from my days when I was playing up in Seattle and he was in Portland. He was one of the young prodigies coming up. He started, I believe, in middle school or high school, around the same time as our current national champion, Nigel Peltier and Rafi Stern, and that entire crew up in the Northwest. Kind of came up together and have all blossomed into high-level experts that have shown to have staying power, or still at it after all these years.
That's right. A gem is part of the next generation. Wow. V for 14. That is very much not what I expected. That's a shocking play.
That tells me that either he didn't see evictees, and he clearly would have seen the plays on row 11, but decided that the defense was more important. And Gem, as it turns out, has the one sort of rack where blocking the Z actually wasn't that important, so he could have gotten away with playing devices, Boniato or something through Noah's bingo would have come down. Noah would have still had a 100-point lead and then been able to block the Z on his next turn, presumably. But now, Gem's presumably going to bingo with Boniato.
Oh, and he's got with Zune. Very interesting. I actually really like this. It didn't come up in our play finding. Boniato is a lot of points to pass up, honestly. That's 73 points. But his logic with Zoan, I called it Zune, but it's either... Actually, I think it's Zune is a verb, isn't it? But his logic there is, well, the Z is such a cheap scoring spot that I'm very likely to bingo regardless if I just... I don't need to bingo this turn. I have the blank, and he's elected to take 39 points and block a very cheap way for Noah to score points himself.
Right.
It's really interesting. And look at that. He has bodies, B-A-W-D-I-E-S, lined up in the exact same spot as Boniato, making buy and ups. So his gamble, a huge gamble, but it's the kind of gamble that you have to make when you're trailing. And his gamble looks like it's gonna pay off here because bodies is 78. He plays in two places. He can play bodies and Akis. Very principled. He realized, you know what? I don't need to rush to bingo. I'm going to block this huge scoring spot first. And he puts Noah in a really painful spot. Well, about as painful as you can be when you're up by 101 points.
Yeah.
Or what's the current margin? Current margin is 76.
And
76 holding the blank, you normally feel pretty good, but Noah looks stumped to me.
yeah, so he's drawn an F and an M, which will not let him bingo this turn. And this board, thanks to Zoan, has kind of become bingo or bust. If you're not going to bingo, he's going to play FAM for 16, redrawing to the CEIS leave. But Jem's going to bingo.
And he puts it in space, which is really interesting. It's 80 points. I thought he was going to consider slotting it on the right, and Noah's going to bingo here in response. So Noah is going to certainly get a blank bingo down, but now Jem has opted into kind of an open board setup. There's a lot of letters to play through in bodies. He can still bingo on the right with that lane, hooking the YE. And I think Jem's going to have a very good chance of riposting to whatever Noah comes up here. Noah's kind of taken a bingo rack and taken 3 turns to get his bingo down. With that said, he has such a flexible rack. He might have some huge plays here. He's going to have to burn some more time. I wonder how he's doing on the clock, actually, because he's had to really burn a lot of brain power. And now he has to worry about things like, can I underlap bodies? And he has to go through the entire bingo finding process. He just plays on the right side. He plays Cyros for 83, and that's gonna feel like a blow to Jem. It is going to leave him 90 points down, but Jem has a real chance here, I think, if you can get through this rack and keep the board open. Noah is still not entirely out of range, let's say.
Yeah, so Noah's bingo is going to put him ahead 387 to 292. And after finding his highest scoring option of Cyros, which, he may not have been too concerned because, any bingo he tries to play through one of the letters in bodies would have probably opened up even more space down on the bottom. So I'm going with Jilt for 27, which looks as reasonable as anything.
Goes down pretty fast. Makes a lot of sense because it at least tries to keep the left side of the board open. He might be able to draw to an S and get a bingo down hooking Jilts. With that said, Noah is in pretty good shape here because he can just make a board closing move. He almost had it down already, in fact. You could play something like Clang, perhaps? C-L-A-N-G.
Clang or Franck or something through that A, which, playing through a vowel is going to become important because there are not many vowels left in this pool. This pool has become pretty unbalanced, and Noah holds the last E, and Clang does come down, shutting off that section of the board because the C takes no 2-letter words. For those used to the International Dictionary, CH is not in ours.
I wonder if Jem regrets not playing Boniato now. At the time, I thought Zoan was a pretty clever way forwards, but in a sense, blocking the Z almost reduces the variance of the board. Where had that Z stayed open and he got a bingo down, then it feels like they're just a more volatile board. Jem could catch up by playing to the Z and drawing an S bingo, and right now he's kind of out of options, actually, or things have kind of ground to a halt. Of course, he doesn't know that Noah has that blank.
Right,
so
right.
I
think
thought that he needed the additional variance.
Yeah, I think his plan was play Zoan, bingo next turn, draw the other blank, and then get back into the game that way. And he got the first two parts of that plan right, and maybe he should have been able to infer. That this is the sort of thing that only comes with years of experience that Jem doesn't yet have, of being able to notice that Noah took 3 or 4 minutes on the turn after Prez and then played a V for 14. That would signal a rack that is pretty close to a bingo, quite possibly involving the blank.
Maybe it could also be a disaster rack with 6 vowels. Yeah, it's also really striking on that V turn that Noah didn't play from the Z. So then you kind of ask yourself, if my opponent didn't play from the Z last turn and they only have 2 new toe, no. This is awesome. Oh, I want this to be a word so bad. Clangy. I mean, it makes sense. Something is clangy.
I've heard it used in what would be its context, but
I think he had some hit songs back in the 2000s.
And unfortunately,
Noah with the big frown. That's not good. When you put down a word and you see your opponent with a huge frown on their face and they say hold, you're usually in trouble. But he doesn't have a lot to lose here.
Yeah, I wasn't seeing anything that would have really improved his chances. I think something like Yao alongside Yak, Axon forming Yak and 1 might have been his best practical attempt. But as things...
It's pretty slim pickings at that point. Yeah, I have to say that there's not much to lose there. Clanky is good, I do believe.
Should be.
So it's not an outrageous attempt. And here he's played a suggestion of Yao. I mean, Yao just goes back 78 cheap points as well that you can understand his reluctance.
Right, the likeliest sequence after Yao is Noah makes some play on column E, and now not only is there no place to bingo, there's not really a place to open a spot to bingo.
Right. But yeah, I still want to get back. I can't help but think about that V play again. And I think if your opponent doesn't have a Z play and they play for 14, don't you just kind of hope that they don't draw another Z play at that point? Because it's just 2 more tiles. They're only drawing for 2 more tiles. And if they're fishing for bingo anyway, they may not really want to. They may not get to play for the Z because they're playing a bingo instead. So I just wonder if there are times when passing on the bingo is the right move. I just wonder if he should have pounced on Boniato and then tried to draw the second blank out of the bag. It was a pretty interesting, nuanced move. I think it has a lot going for it, but I do think I would have elected to get Boniato down and take my chances on drawing another bingo out of the bag.
So Noah here with a 96-point lead, last S, and an opportunity to, if he wants to get a little greedy, make a interesting idea here. No vowels remain in the bag from his perspective. So playing Gone at 5G for 10 points, setting up his A hook, which he knows his opponent essentially cannot block, and trying to draw into, let's see, Bursate. I don't think the H hits.
Is uprates
I
in this dictionary?
believe
Yes,
so.
Right. Stature. Stature doesn't fit.
Right. Saluter estrual doesn't fit. And it's Saunter's natures, those don't fit. But yeah, it's a reasonable shot to take to pick up some extra spread, which, given that Noah is 3 games off the lead, if he gets into a tie for the lead, that spread is going to matter.
Absolutely. The spreads are pretty close at the top of this division as well. And in fact, Jem has more spread points than Noah. So it's almost like Noah's spread points in this game count double. Every point he's able to accrue deducts another point from Jem's spread. And it could really matter in the all-important tiebreaker in the placement. So it's great to see him put the time in here. And I don't really see a lot of downside to it's essentially with 7 vowels, there is essentially absolutely nothing that Jem can do to interfere.
7 consonants, I mean, yeah, and we can see that the last tile in the bag is going to be the B, so Gone will threaten Bursate, and I don't know how Jem blocks that.
Unblockable. You can just see Jem waiting for his stay of execution here. I guess the stay of execution is when you get to I had it.
You have backwards. He's hoping for the call from the governor, and it does not appear to be forthcoming.
There we go. No Walton for governor. That would be an interesting campaign. I've never thought about that one. I think Noah's a lovely human. I think he's the kind of person who's too nice to be a politician.
Yeah, I would not want to corrupt Noah with the trials and travails of a political campaign. Okay, so we see update in the chat that Noah's at about 4 minutes left on his clock here. Jem with plenty of time, he hasn't hit, and he is.
There goes.
He's gonna give it.
Jem clutches the forehead. You can see him saying, "Why me?" He knew that was coming. He had it figured out. All he could do was just silently pray that the G didn't come down, and there is absolutely nothing he can do to stop Bursate. Brutal. Really kind of an unfair outcome. You can see them already chattering about how this one went.
And championship player doesn't even make any. Well, I'm sure it makes an attempt by going through every possibility, but and again, for those of you used to the international lexicon, CH is not acceptable, so NTH alongside there will not work. Jem finds his best non-block of for 21.
And down comes Bursate. This is pretty important for the tournament. Turns into 179-point win. And Noah becomes the spread leader of the tournament, passes Jem in the standings as well. He needed to win by 116 to pass Jem in the tournament, and he does it.
Final score of 551-370. Let's go ahead and listen in.